Shalom Aleichem Mishpacha. This is your brother Ra'ah Emeth, Ra'ah or Ra'ah Emet, Hanatsari, the Nazarene. I'm coming at you with another installment. Today's date is November 26, 2020, so-called 2020. And this is the finale here, people. All right, I'm going to give you what you want. All right, or it seemed like give you what some of y'all need. Okay, which is clarification. After this video, I'm not going to be discussing the name because I realize that a lot of you people out here are just too simple and you guys are afraid of truth. All right. I did a part 1 video showing you that the name of the Most High is Yahuwah and all these other names, Jehovah, Yahuwah, Yahweh, Yahweh, and all these other names are false. And that Yahuwah is the true name and the only name. Yahuwah is a full form and how Yah was the shortened form. If you don't believe me, watch the part 1. If you don't want to watch the part 1 and still call me stupid, let the Most High deal with you because you should understand first and then rebuke. Okay? Don't call me dumb or don't say that I was wrong and you haven't even watched my video. Okay? Another thing is I realize that a lot of you Yahushua Cats are just as disrespectful and ignorant as the people who say Jesus and Yahushua. I'm going to use some examples. I bumped into a guy named Ja777, okay? Probably an Edomite or whatever. But this Caucasian male I was interacting with, I was trying to teach him the name of Yahushua, and dealing with pride. I already know what I'm dealing with. He's coming with the spirit of, I guess, I don't need you to tell me anything. I know the Hebrew and you don't, And, I find that spirit a lot with people from that region of the earth, So I'm trying my best to keep a good composure with him. And then I sent him my video. I said, I have a video that I did entitled Yahusha or Yahushua. And I'm showing you, I'm using the verbs. I'm going into the nouns, showing you that how Joshua's name was never no Yahusha. The man came back and said, I do not need to watch your effing video. Okay? And, and then I started asking him, that ain't very Christ-like. And then he started calling me a devil. And he said that you're a liar. And he said the name of the Most High is Yah and it's Yahusha. And blah, blah, blah. Started sending me like devil faces and the middle finger and all that. And I'm like, these Yahushua Cats, man, that's why in my part 2 video, I was talking to particular, not everyone who says Yahushua, but I was talking to some of y'all and putting you on the spot. When I said that you guys, some of y'all stuck on stupid, I was not talking about anybody who says the name Yahushua or Yahushua. If you want to say the name, more power to you. All right? Just know it ain't Hebrew. That's all. But the point is, what I'm saying is, when you cats that say Yahushua, don't be talking to us like, oh yeah, that's not Hebrew. Yahushua is not the name. And then when I prove it to you, now you want to go on this scoffing thing. Now you want to play gainsaying. Like this other individual I brought out in the part 2 from a book called Ancient Hebrew Lexicon of the Bible. And this man in there gives us a clear history on how the Masoretic corrupted the original form of Hebrew. Now, we could get a better form of Hebrew looking at the Dead Sea Scrolls text. Oh yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to show you in the Dead Sea Scrolls text that the name was always Yahushua. Okay? All right? And when you look at the Dead Sea Scroll text, it could get a little confusing. All right? So, before I go into that, I want to explain that's why I was a little aggressive on part 2. If you were offended, I didn't mean to offend you if you just say the name Yahushua, but when I was calling those cats that were stuck on stupid, when I was saying, oh, you Yahushua Cats and you Yahushua Cats, and by the way, cats is not even an insult. When I say cats, that's like saying people, you guys, okay? That's an urban term. I don't know about all of y'all from around the world, but when you grow up from around the streets in United States, okay, when you say, oh man, I bumped into a group of cats, I wasn't insulting. That's like saying a group of people. Okay, I didn't want to be like, oh yeah, you Yahushua people. I just say you Yahushua Cats. All right, but if you were offended, I didn't mean to come off like that. And like I said, man, this is going to be the last video that I discuss with the Hebrew because I realize a lot of y'all are just not even ready for the true name. Okay? And you guys are gonna be getting more offended when in my future videos. I could just tell you that right now. You must well just unfollow me right now, because I'm gonna be reading from Enoch and Second Enoch, and we're gonna be going into the Gospel. We're gonna be going into the Acts of Andrew and the Acts of Thomas, tying it up with Revelation and Acts. And if you talk, oh, I want to know this book in the year. If you stuck on that, get off the page right now. Okay? If you're gonna be bickering and complaining about every fact I bring out, just do not even watch my video. Okay? Now, if you're watching my video, I do my videos for you truth seekers. Okay? So, in my part 2 video, let's go over what I covered. I showed you the verbs and the nouns. I showed you how there's no way that Yahushua's name could end off with Shah, like Yahusha, Jehoshah. Okay? Joshua's name never ended with a Shah ever in history. I showed you in Eusebius's ecclesiastical history that they was using a name that ended in Shua during his time. It is highly evident during the gospel period, they was using a name as Yahushua or Yehoshua, which is off from like a Syrianic type dialect, which is very similar to Yahushua. But they was using the name ending in Ashua even during gospel period. There was no name like Yahusha ever heard around that time. I also went over showing you how when we look at the modern day Hebrew name of Joshua, the 5 Hebrew letter text, that is actually a shortened form for Joshua's original name, because it should be a wow right before the ayin. All right. I showed you within that lesson how the Masoretic removed the vowels. And you guys were saying, one guy tried to say, well, that's just one book. Now, I know he was a little Yahushua sayer. So he trying to gainsay now. Well, that's just one book. How we know? So, okay. So in this thing, I can show you other things on the screen, not from that book. People knew that the Dead Sea Scrolls had a more better form of Hebrew other than just that book. You want to get simple with me, okay? Because if you want to be simple, look, man, the simpler you get, the more facts I'll bring out. And the more stupid you will look as time goes on. So just hear the word of the Most High. Let's understand Hebrew. And if you don't want to learn from me, look, man, there's plenty of other so-called celebrity, people out here. The famous evangelists and guys calling themselves prophets and apostles and their watchmen. You could watch all them guys. But when you come to the Ra'ah Imat page, this Nazarene ain't playing with you boys. All right? And some of you little girls out there that claim to know Hebrew. All right? Coming on my page talking about, you need to learn the real Hebrew. No, woman, you need to learn the real Hebrew roots. All right? I showed you how the Masoretes corrupted Joshua's name. I showed you that even when we look, and they created a system called the Nakod. Now, the Nakod is to replace the sounds of the original Hebrew from what they removed. So even when you look at the modern day name and 5 Hebrew letter name for Joshua, if you look under the shin right before the ayin, you will see that there's 3 dots. Now that is the sharuk or the chabutz, and that gives off a u sound. So it's not a sha sound, it's really shua sound. It's giving a shu, and with that ayin is ah. So shua sound. So it's still saying Yahushua. All right. Now, I mean, come on, man. And y'all still saying these names, but anyway, I showed you. Even there's a famous pastor. I think there's a site called Pastor Institute. And there was a pastor, he was saying that, he trusted in the Masoretic text. And he always held the Masoretic text as, good for accuracy as far as following, biblical history and understanding the ancient biblical Hebrew that was being used. Until he actually read the Dead Sea Scrolls and he realized it had all the vowels that the Masoretic removed. And then the man realized that he was wrong. Now, what you don't realize is that the editors of the Et Sefer followed the Masoretic text.
Word Yahusha. This is Strong's H3091. Now, I have to tell you, I'm fairly disappointed with what has happened with Sword Searcher, who has seen fit to deny that the Masoretic text and the 89 uses of Yahushua, that they have converted them all into Yahushua. And that is not what appears in the Masoretic text. What appears in the Masoretic text is, of the 89 times that you have Strong's H3091, it appears as Yahushua, Yod He Vav Shin Ayin, and not with the additional Vav. There are two places where it does appear with the additional Vav as Yahushua. But in 87 of the instances, it's Yahusha. Okay?
You see that? They trust in the Masoretic text. I showed you the head of the Ed Sefer, he trusts in the Masoretic text. Now, if one looks at the Dead Sea Scrolls and one looks at the Masoretic, so-called modern Aramaic Hebrew, one's going to say, well, they have to be the same thing. No, they're not. You have to understand that the Masoretic text just came on the scene on the earth about a little over 1,000 years ago. 1,000 years before the Masoretes even came on the scene, we had Qumran, we had the Sadducees, we had other communities before then who had their own texts, okay, about 1,000 years before. So we have to understand that the Dead Sea Scrolls is 1,000 years ahead of what we look at the modern day Hebrew. The Masoretic text was used after Hamashiach's time, as when we look at the Dead Sea Scrolls text, that was used during or before Yahushua's time, when he came and manifested himself in the flesh. So if we want to understand Hebrew, we don't need to be like the editors of Ed Sefer, because these guys, man, they don't know the Hebrew like that. Okay? I love the Ed Sefer. I use the Ed Sefer, but it's wrong. Okay? Just like various other books that claim to be the real Hebrew, and I read it as look Yahweh, they wrong. Okay? Just like when we read in the King James, we see Lord and it's wrong. Okay? Just because it's wrong doesn't mean I got to throw away the Bible. It's just the fact that we got to do digging. Okay? It implies that you have to use your brain and stop trusting in people. All right? So now if we look at the Masoretic text and the Dead Sea Scroll text, it looks very similar. But the thing is that the Dead Sea Scrolls was on the scene 1,000 years before the Masoretic text. And the main reason why they both are written in the same form of what they call square or box Hebrew is because the children of Israel adapted this form of Aramaic Hebrew from the Babylonian captivity after leaving the Babylonian/Persian captivity. Okay, when we went to Mesopotamia, we picked up the Syrian script. We picked up the Aramaic, the Mesopotamian language. And then as time went on, we adapted their alphabet with our sounds. And this is how come when we look at, prophets like Daniel and all, it said that Daniel was written in Aramaic Hebrew. Okay, now this Aramaic Hebrew is called the Katab Ashari, which means Assyrian text. It means the Assyrian script. So it is not the original form of the Hebrew, but it's at that time they used the real sounds, but they was just writing it in an Aramaic form. But the point is that when we look at the Dead Sea Scrolls, all the names for like God, Elohim, and all, it all had the vowels. The Masoretic text does not have certain vowels. And even in Joshua's name, we will see this corruption. I'm going to use an example if you do not believe me. When we look at Exodus chapter 20 and 13, if you read that in the modern day Hebrew, you will just see a lamed and a aleph for thou shalt not, or do not, or not, right? Or, to disagree is lo. You only see a lamed and a aleph. When you actually read in the Dead Sea Scrolls, you will see a lamed, a waw, and an aleph, which gives it a lo sound. You wouldn't know that. Other sources show you that when you read David, this is how come you guys that believe in Lashawan Kodash, you guys call David Dawad, because you see a dalit, right? A waw and a dalit, when it's really supposed to be a dalit, a waw, a yod, which gives it a y sound, and a dalet, which makes it Dawid. when you actually read the Dead Sea Scrolls, it has David's name in the full form. When you read the Dead Sea Scrolls, Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, okay? When we look at Genesis 1 and 1 in the Masoretic text, it'll have a aleph. It has it'll have the what they'll have. It has an aleph, a lamet, and it goes straight to the hey and the yod and the mim. When it's supposed to have a aleph, right? A lamet and a wow, which is supposed to give it the alo. This is how come some people are saying alachayim when it's supposed to say Elohim. You see? But actually, when you read Genesis 1 and 1, you will see that in the Dead Sea Scrolls, they have Elohim in a full form. When you read in the Dead Sea Scrolls under Isaiah's script, what is that? IQISA, something like that. Isaiah chapter 61 and 11, right? When we read that in the Masoretic text, it said for Lord God, they have Adonai Yahuwah. When you read in the Dead Sea Scrolls text, it has Yahuwah Elohim, and Elohim is spelled with a aleph, a lamet, a waw, a head, a yod, and a mem. You see what I'm saying? Because they removed the waw from Elohim. So there's so much corruption and so much misunderstanding when you go by that. And this is what the editors of Ed Sefer and all these other camps and people who claim to be Hebrew scholars, this is what they trust in. Masoretic text, when the Dead Sea Scrolls shows us the real understanding of the text. So, for my truth seekers out there, all right, we're going to move to the lie. We're going to smash the lie. Because those that say Yahusha, all right, they will only admit that Yahushua is used in, I think, in Judges 2 and 7 and Deuteronomy 3 and 21. All right. They will say that that is the only 2 times Yahushua is used. And if you do not believe me, you could go back to the clip where you see the editor from Ed Sefer and he makes this false statement as well. It's proving that he don't know Hebrew. All right. So he makes it clear, or he tries to say that it's only used twice. Now, moving to the Dead Sea Scrolls, it proves the Ed Sefer, the Masoretic text, and all you guys that trust in the Masoretic text or the Masoretic form of Hebrew, the modern Hebrew, all to be liars. All right? You think I'm joking? You think I'm joking? Bam! Okay? All praises. Hallelujah. All right? What is this right here? I know a lot of you guys that say Jesus and Yahushua. What is this? What is that? This right here, ladies and gentlemen, is an actual photographic picture of the fragmentation from a script from the book of Joshua within the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, keep this in mind. They only say that it's written in 6 Hebrew letters in Deuteronomy 23. Deuteronomy 3 and 21 and Judges chapter 2 and 7. That's what those people who read the Ed Sefer, they say it's only twice. It's only written 6 Hebrew letters twice. When you look at Joshua chapter 6, all right, verses 5 to 8, if we was to read that in the Masoretic text, it only has Joshua in the 5 Hebrew letters. But when you go to the Hebrew within the Dead Sea Scrolls, we see that in Joshua, the 6th chapter, Joshua is used with the full 6 Hebrew letters in it. Oh, no, but you still talking? Okay. Bam! We're going to move to the Logos, or the Logos Bible software. Oh, I'm having fun with y'all now. I'm just tearing it up through the spirit of Yahuwah, Bashem Yahushua HaMashiach. You see what happens when you stick with Yahushua? The knowledge he gives you? He said, I'll give you a mouth that your adversaries will not be able to gainsay, man. And I'm still waiting for somebody to drop some Yahushua, Yahushua, Jesus video and watch my part 2 and just basically dissect my video. I'm waiting for somebody. All right. And the ball is in your hand. I'm telling you guys can talk about me. Make a video and show me that Yahusha is Hebrew. Like how I showed you Yahushua HaMashiach. But anyway, the Logos Bible software, Deuteronomy chapter 3. Now, within that, that's the one that they say. You see that Joshua also has the 6 Hebrew letters. But when we go to Joshua chapter 8, within the Masoretic text, remember Joshua, the whole book of Joshua and the Masoretic text only has 5 Hebrew letters. But yet when you look at Joshua 8, verses 3 to 14 in the Dead Sea Scrolls, them fragmentations, anytime they see Joshua's name in the fragmentation, it had 6 Hebrew letters in it. When they go to Joshua chapter 6, verse 7, it's got 6 Hebrew letters in it. When they go to Joshua chapter 6, verse 10, it's got 6 Hebrew letters in it. When they go to Joshua chapter 8, verse 3, Joshua chapter 8, verse 33, 35, and Joshua chapter 10, verse 4, we see within the fragmentations, the original Hebrew would have had the 6 Hebrew letters. So what is this saying? I ask you, Yahushua Cats, this. If you're saying that, oh, Yahushua was only used twice and Yahusha's used 216 times, what happened if it was vice versa? What happened if Yahushua was used 216 times and your little Yahushua, which would just be the short version of Yahushua, because the Nakud proved that. So if you saw a short form, it's just Yahushua in the shorter form. But what happened if that was only in the modern Hebrew 5 times? You know what you people will be saying? Yeah, you'll be saying the same exact name that I'm saying. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing else to be said. You learned something. All praise is due to the Father, El Shaddai, Yahuwah. All right, Elohim, Bashim, Yahushua HaMashiach. And I hope you guys finally learned something for once. I hope you guys, you true seekers, you take this knowledge and you spread it. Because the real name of the Messiah needs to go out, because we're in a time of fasting and prayer, and we need to invoke the Spirit of the Almighty and the Son of Man who came to die for our sins. So with that, this is your brother Ra'ah Emet. All right, Ra'ah Emeth, however you want to pronounce it. Hanatzari, the Nazarene. I'm done with the Hebrew. Okay, I'm done. We're done with it. I think it's evident that the name is Yahuwah and the son is Yahushua HaMashiach. With that, shalom.